Well, good morning and welcome to this Angling Direct Quick Bite Learn to Fish video, and it's a real basic one. We're going to be talking about getting into the hobby, what tackle, what rods, what setups to use, and it's aimed for the people who have done zero to very minimal fishing. And it's a beautiful day, and on the lake currently we actually have a bunch of children who are being shown the ropes into getting into this hobby that we love. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's two great methods to get you into fishing, and the first one is the one I done probably 30 plus years ago, and that is the float rod. Now, a real great way to target pretty much everything that swims in the rivers and on lakes, and it's really, really affordable nowadays. This Discover float rod and reel combo comes in at under £30 and doesn't break the bank and gets you out float fishing straight away. It's really simple to set up the float rod. All that is required, 2 float stops on the main line with a float in between. Now, this holds the float to the main line and is adjustable. You can adjust the depth of your float by moving these float stops up and down the line. Now on the float, this one here says it requires 4 BB to cock this float. So down the main line, spread between the float and the hook link, I have 4 shots equally spread out, and they are 4 BB, like the float requires to cock it. On the end of the line, I have a little figure of 8 loop, and I've tied that straight to the end of the main line, and this means I can loop to loop on my hook to nylon. You can get different strengths, different size hooks in these hook to nylons. They come already pre-tied, and it's simple of just looping it on and off when you require it. That is it. That is all you require to get out and float fish. Next, I'm going to talk about the plummet and how to get the correct depth for your float. Okay, the little device I was talking about, the plummet, is really, really simple tool, and it is used to gauge the depth of where you're fishing out in the lake. Now, all you got to do, pass your hook through the little loop on the top of the plummet and then attach it to the nice soft cork at the bottom. Now, the correct way would be to set your float shallow. So when you cast out onto your chosen spot, the float won't pop up to the top because the plummet is pulling it under the surface. Then retrieve it, then slowly but surely pull your float stops up your main line in intervals and keep casting out until your float just pops up and is visible on the surface film. Then you know that the plummet is sitting on the bottom, i.e. your hook will be on the bottom and your float is just on the surface. Now I'm going to run through some baits which I would recommend fishing with the float rod. Okay, bait choice as promised. Now, as a beginner, I don't think you can go far wrong with maggots. Now, maggots catch pretty much everything that swims, and it's a simple case of just hooking probably 1 or 2 onto your hook and casting it out. But with all baits, you're better off feeding a pinch of maggots and the other baits over the top as you fish, just to keep the feed going in the swim. Now, as a kid, I didn't go fishing without sweet corn because carp love sweet corn, and it's a simple case, same as your maggots, 1 grain of corn on your hook and keep that corn going in. Now, if you want to target carp and your bream, now pellets. These soft hookable pellets are a real great choice. Hook them onto your hook like so and feed with pellets. Now, these mixed size pellets here are brilliant. Keep them going into the swim. They sink to the bottom. Carp, tench, bream, they love them. Perfect baits to be fishing on the deck when targeting those species. Okay, so that's baits talked about. Let's talk about the most important thing, casting out and hopefully catching a fish. Now, I am going to start this session using maggots because every fish that swims loves a maggot. I'm just going to hook 2 onto the hook like so, and then we'll get into casting and baiting. So it's fairly simple. With a fixable reel like this, you need to hold the line with your finger, but really important, open that bail arm. That means you can do an overhead cast and the line is going to come off the reel. And when I say overhead, just bring the float past you and just do a nice steady little cast. Remember to close that bail arm, and then what you can do is just reel your float to where you started at the beginning of the session, plummeted to get the correct depth. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed some maggots over the top. like so. Keep that bait reining in, and hopefully it won't be long before we can get a bite and show you a nice little carp. There we go. That didn't take long at all. But a nice little carp on the end by the feel. Let's see what we got. Yay! Lovely little carp. Perfect fish for someone who's just looking to get in to fishing. There we go. Excellent. Let's see if we'll behave and we can show you what we've caught. There we go, we need a disgorger for this one. He's just hooked just in the top lip there. There is it, there we go. Like there. They are a bit lively these, but there we go. Tiny little carp, perfect for anyone looking to get into float fishing. Hope that's helped with float fishing. Let's move on to the other method, which is feeder fishing, which is a little bit more up my street. So before we get fishing, I'm just going to mix up some ground bait. This is the Avanta method mix, and all you need to do is add a bit of water, bit by bit, mix together until you get a nice damp ground bait, which balls up like so. Okay, so that's the method mix ready to rock us. Let's talk about the hook links that you require. Now, I've just used these Method Bandits, and they're nice and simple. You just buy them ready-made, and then you can literally attach them to your feeder like so. Hook bait choice, it is the Ringers Wafters. Now these are little tiny hook baits that you can attach to the bands on the hook link, and they are ready to go. So let's talk about the method and the loader. With the Avanta feeders, you get the feeder itself and you get the loader. Now it's quite simple how to load these. It's a simple case of getting your hook bait, let's try that again. Getting a hook bait, putting it in there like so, and then just putting a bit of ground bait over the top, and then laying your feeder over like so, and then all you've got to do is press like so, and you'll be left with a nice little parcel of bait with your hook bait on the top, ready to catch a carp. Now all we've got to do is cast it out and wait for a bite. Okay, so that's that done. Let's get this down and let's cast out. And what we'll do is we'll show you how to cast out and distinguish a bite. Now, you want to try and drop this feeder on the same spot as you do every single time. Simple case, hold the line with your forefinger, just like the float, open your bail arm, and all you're going to do is just cast. I'm just going to cast this down the margin here. It's always a good place to start with carp fishing. Literally just there like so. I'm going to close the bail arm. I'm going to put the rod on the rest. Now, what you've got to do is slowly tighten up. So there's a slight curve in that rod tip. And the rod tip is basically the equivalent of your float when float fishing. And what you're waiting for is that rod tip to bend round like that, as quick as that, and we have a fish on straight away. So it can be a really deadly method, as you've just seen, and a real fun one as well. So let me just concentrate and get this fish in, and we'll show you that. There we go, the hook's come out in the net, and we've got a lovely little carp here, little fantail carp. Just goes to prove that the method feeder is a great way of fishing, and as I said earlier, pretty much my favourite way. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this Learn to Fish. It's a real basic one for anyone who's looking to get into fishing. Two great methods. Using the Discover range means you can get out fishing and catch fish like this on a real low budget and enjoy yourself. See ya.